Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up? LiamXmaiL here. Long time no see. Waving, saying hi. How you doing? Man, I got a long, lengthy little live here, so we're just gonna start getting into things, right? So, I did a little bit of a live stream with somebody yesterday. They have a really big channel. I've been working in my way into politics lately, and so a lot of people don't know who I am. My name is Liam. I was born William. My mama called me Billy. I chose Liam because it's the same as male backwards. It's the last four letters of my name. And I was also a big fan of Aerosmith's game early on, Revolution X. It was about taking over the New World Order, defeating the deep state, the evil, tyrannical, robotic, artificially intelligence-driven government with the power of music. I actually still contemplate whether this is a true possibility or not. I think it might be, actually. Music is a really powerful tool. It's a language that transcends all barriers. It's a way to communicate deep emotions and thoughts. We just haven't rose into that level yet. It's said often that we should be called out and called upon to use our various gifts to raise the Lord up and to bring those who are lost and who are suffering to God so that they can be healed and recover. Does that mean all of our powers should be handed to God? Does that mean that God is solely the single thing responsible in life for the bettering of our existence? No, that's not the case whatsoever. We have to drive ourselves towards a better world. We have to raise our children. We have to be the individuals in society and civilization that are necessary in order to maintain our community and our infrastructure and our ecosystem. And God is the one who gives us the insight and the inspiration and the motivation and the ability to do so. So I want to cover a lot of different things as well. There was this guy back in the day in the internet conspiracy era and in the hacktivist era and the codist era. You know, a hacker is somebody who can code a computer efficiently, incredibly well. They spend all night eating pizza and drinking caffeinated beverages so they can code into the wee hours of the next day, right? And one of the most efficient navigators of this web was a Captain X or a Mr. X, and I don't really know much about him. I don't follow extremists. I don't follow radicalists. I follow God. I myself don't consider myself to be an extremist or a radicalist. I consider myself to be somebody who loves God. So before we go any further, we'll just say thank you, God, for this gift of life, for this new year, for this opportunity for all of us to be guided and moved in your spirit towards something greater, something that we can all work towards, something that we can all become part of, the world that you've gifted us with, this beautiful space. There's so much to cover, and there's no rush. We need to realize that this gift of life you've given us is something to not be taken for granted. We have to stop to smell the roses and watch the birds fly and the cats scratch. Yep, hi. And we have to be connected with one another in our times of strength and weakness. We have to stop worshiping false idols. We have to stop allowing ourselves to be entertained. That is one of the biggest things that are harming us, is our willingness to be entertained. We are willing to be entertained and have our senses dulled and our anxieties soothed by the entertainers of the world. And we have to realize that we all, every single one of us have been called forth to cancel out the NPC, to break up out of the matrix slumber, and to come forth in our willingness to be warrior scholars and teachers and students of our gift from God and our gift from this universe. And we have to be intelligent, and we have to operate in such manners and capacities. So Mr. X was one of these early pioneers, somebody who could see, somebody who was like a Morpheus or like a Neo or like somebody else who was another member of those who have broken free from the system of control and subduction of the matrix, of the control systems and the programming that we are constantly being forced upon us, that we have to maintain levels of defense against, which make us vulnerable in other areas, which takes our attention away from other things. So I know you're being rambunctious. You're being a crazy kitty cat. Yeah, you are. Hi. Yeah. So I know you are being rambunctious. So, our distraction, the things that are vying for our attention, the things that are keeping us from focusing on that which actually needs to be accomplished. It's much like the scenarios presented in the film They Live. It's actually like a blueprint, because at the end he destroys the media. His sole goal is to stop people, to stop the feed from the digital prison long enough to allow people to think clearly. It's the same narrative provided in the first Matrix and in the fourth Matrix. First time done by Neo, the second time done by Trinity. They just have to stop the feed long enough so that people can wake up and realize that there is a whole nother world that exists, a whole nother paradigm, a shift that can occur, so that we can realize that we don't have to be warring, we don't have to be destroying. That was all taught from us. That was all programmed into us. You'll see at times that you will believe, well, it's in the very ants of the planet. Like, it's just natural for us to war with each other. No. If it was natural for us to war with each other, all the other species of life would have somehow, one way or another, found a means to dominate each other to a point of canceling out one another's existence. Not every other species, it will be alphas in every pack, but every alpha has a predator. So, if you look up on YouTube a video called the Pandora Insect Experiment, it will show you how some species that are typically known to be territorial and willing to combat in a tribal feudal manner against one another, that they can actually give each other respect. It's just a process. It's a matter of evolution and the proper sequence of events to occur that will allow people the time for their minds to freely be given an opportunity to allow peace to exist and thrive instead of harm, chaos, and terror. It's not necessary. It's something we find ourselves given into. There are those who believe it's absolutely necessary, and they're not really like us. They are different than us. They are changed and manipulated race and species, and they have a different origin than we do, and they have a different timeline than we do. They see the world differently entirely. They see the world as they know what cell phones are capable of doing, because they had cell phones a long time ago, thousands of years ago even. They did, on their plane of origin. And they use these cell phones in order to, in this time and place, to program us even further. They realize that computers have this way that it interacts with the body. We think, oh, it's just something that we get on and we do. No. The entire consciousness has shifted when it comes to our interaction with these computer systems. Our consciousness entirely shifts. We see, there we go, something's distracting me and taking my thought away. Turn this off. Perfect. Okay, so something distracts us, and our consciousness entirely shifts. And when we utilize a computer system, what's happening is that we are interfacing with this into an energetic field. Now, we don't even know what the energy is. We don't understand what energy is. The same thing is occurring with video games. The same thing is occurring with cell phones. You can get locked, and the energetic pull is real. They are pulling something from you, not just your time and energy, because, see, by printing trillions of dollars, they've actually stolen millions of hours of human time. And the same thing occurs by us distracting you with entertainment and with electronic devices for dehumanizing an individual. All the electronic interaction takes us away from the original core interactions of the planet. The core interactions of the planet existed in a natural state, whereas these things are existing in an artificial state, which would therefore make us artificial. It was also recently mentioned that our generation is one of the last generations to know what it was, to know what this world was before the imposing of this digital empire. See, people are very slow to realize excuse me, people are very slow to realize things that I've understood for a very long time because of information that God has shared with me. And when I say God has shared with me, is that He's directed my attention, and He's allowed these things for me to be aware of them at a very young age without a lot of influence, just by simply navigating life and the energy channels within it. So I became aware of the fact that at one time we lived in an analog state, and it moved into a mechanical state, and then it moved into a digital state, and now it's moving into a quantum state, and now it's moving into an artificially augmented state, and an artificial intelligence driven state. and then our intelligence will hybrid with the artificial intelligence. And this is all stuff that I've known and been sharing for 20 years, 30 years. I'm 40 years old now. So Mr. X was somebody who was well aware of this very early on in the wave of information. And I'm sure he had a lot of other concerns, because I haven't paid that much attention, but I mentioned him because I think there's some value to it. There's some value because I never knew about Mr. X when I came up with LiamXmaiL. It was simply a coincidence. And he's always been somebody who the government has had a lot of concern and interest in. And apparently I also have been somebody that the government has had some concern and interest in. And that is because I was raised a certain way that wasn't able to completely dumb my intelligence levels down. Whereas we see a lot of time in society, a lot of people have been programmed with so much negative intelligence programming, have been force-fed so much polluted food. Our bodies have changed. The drugs that are forced onto the streets, the chemtrails that are poisoned and poured down from the skies and saturate our food, which is then uptook back into the animal and food supply. It's surprised that they allow their horses to eat the alfalfa that was recently produced but no longer is allowed to be produced in Arizona or Nevada. I think it's Arizona. And Saudi, they purchased it and are the sole proprietors of these farms named Arizona something. It's not even, it sounds like it would be a Saudi Arabian farm, but all this alfalfa is produced there and then sent back out to Saudi Arabia for the horses there. But it would just lead me to wonder if somehow they've been able to also make it so that chemtrails aren't permitted to be sprayed in these places. See, the United States is in a very strange predicament because we're like, well, why would we have to succumb and kneel our knees to the state of Israel when we are like 250 million strong, 350 million strong? Israel has like 12 million residents plus allegedly 70 million Zionists living abroad, right? Somewhere along those lines. That still pales in comparison to the ability and might and physical power and physicality that the Americans and even their allied forces possess. And then we have to consider the Samson option, which is that if any state was suddenly threaten the existence of Israel, well, Israel would deploy the Samson option, which would assure mutual destruction against the state that has issued said, destructive forces against Israel. And this can also push Israel's allies into following suit against that nation. And if that nation has any allies, then again, it would be a back and forth now because of the Samson option. That situation wouldn't typically come up, but Israel has a, and also like they have a declared and mutual benefit agreement to how things would be done, and because of that, it's their it's the way that everything is perceived in this scenario playing out, that Israel, the one that we're living in right now, Israel could be in fact the cause of a total all-encompassing planetary affair. So another point of mention would be about the entirety of the nature of our reality. See, the Bible has been allowed to exist for a reason, and as it currently exists, it's more of a basic manual for instructions before leaving Earth, and it also prepares people for managing their lives and managing the planet and being subservient to a higher authority, a multiplicity of higher authorities. That's what the Bible truly does, is it gives us the direction to have to be subject to authorities that are outside of ourselves. However, in the originally stated purposes of the Bible, there's great purpose and function and meaning in it, right? What is that? What would be the purpose, function, and meaning of these things, right? That would be that You good, buddy? What do you need? You're like, I ate all my food and all my water, and now I'm going to die. No, don't. You're not gonna die. You're gonna be fine. You just need to relax, okay? All right. He was really stressing out because he finished his water off, and he does that a lot. He's like, "Yep, now everything's right. See?" And he was really freaking out. He's like, "I'm gonna do everything I can. I'm gonna dig it. I'm gonna tear up all the papers, and I'm gonna climb in everything." And I'm like, "Are you good, bro?" And he's like, "Yeah, but not really." So, all right. Again, thank you guys for your presence and for staying with us and enjoying the presentation. So we were talking about Mr. X, and we also started talking about the nature of this reality and how it's natural and unnatural. I mean, there's a greater depth to it than that as well. The true depth of it is that the reality we live in, at the natural state that it was generated, if it is in fact a natural state. We have all these online authorities talking about how in fact it might not be a natural state, that it might actually be a stimulation. And one part of that is that God did create a natural creation. The Bible has been used to give us a higher calling, to give us a direction and a compass in our life. But oftentimes it also subjugates us to living a life that is in serfdom to the Caesars of today. And we must be wary of these things, because even then there's the idea that different mindsets interpret things differently and have different outcomes and different draw different conclusions from the knowledge and the guidance contained within different books of information. So in China we could consider, which they don't truly support Christianity thriving there, because it takes focus away from the life of their individual selves and away from the serfdom of the head of China and the government of China, which is the highest form of intelligence and government are existence for them. So the Bible has also been used to program people for all of time that it's existed, and because of that, we have to go back to its root sources. We have to go back to its earliest forms, the canon and pre-apocrypha period. We have to go back before the councils of Nicaea. We have to go back before it was changed into what it is now. And when that has been done, we find a completely different purpose in the Bible, and it's to allow us to understand the state of existence that we've been pushed into and how it operates and the different levels of function that exist. And these things are now all reserved for the corporate heads and for the religious figures. I mean, even our religions, like our mega churches, are using incredible mind programming and mind controlling technologies and techniques in order to vibrate people into a soothing state of being. I mean, all the money that these mega churches are making, you don't think that they have the money to purchase technology that allows you to be vibrationally and harmonically attuned to these places and allow you to feel a greater sense of peace while inside of these buildings? It's pure evil. As I mentioned before, there's individuals who possess technology that makes ours nothing in comparison. And these groups that possess this technology, they've been utilizing this for thousands of years, and they've found the dangers in it, but they've also found that it can be used to manipulate others. And I say thousands of years because their timeline is thousands of years in advance to ours. A lot of people are beginning to cover this now in the whole, fringe conspiracy theorist environment and group too. That there are people who have already manipulated time, can manipulate time, can manipulate events, can manipulate things in time and space. So place things there. Then, they can go back in time, place something where nobody would have any business going, because you'd be surprised that people, and they can test it too, and it's really crappy because they can also go right back before, like, to the moment they place it, because obviously somebody didn't find it 5 seconds after they placed it there because they know it was there when they left. So they have a window of time that they can go back and remove that thing, and then that event whenever occurred, and everything will spin back, and people wonder what mandala is. And it's a mixture of augmented reality, the manipulation of time and space. It's taking things and changing them at different times and places so that they were made to have never existed, but sometimes residue exists. And if it never existed, then why would residue exist? Because maybe that person didn't necessarily make it as a consideration of the true core thought of the original function of the thing, but it gets really sketchy there because we have to consider some things that are incredibly complicated and very, very flimsy. But nevertheless, we are experiencing this, so something in fact has occurred. And that's only one level explaining it. The other level explaining it is in fact the whole simulation that exists. What's up, Abraham? See, it's a lot of people have to take the time to stay with me, to listen to what I'm sharing, because I don't take 30 seconds to share something. Just hang out and listen, and that's, or not, it's your call. Somebody will be listening to this later, which is wonderful. So they manipulate time and space, and they move throughout the dimension of time and space to change things and to usurp logic and reasoning, and to change what the meaning that things has. See, the lion and the lamb, who's the lamb, who's the lion, the wolf, who's the wolf? Is the wolf really the beast? Is the boy who cried wolf us? You have to understand the true, process of having visions and trying to piece together them into a reality. And the government doesn't like that at all. Because just like those pieces of material that get left as residue from things that have changed in our timelines and in our fields of existence, thought also does the same thing too. We change the world with thought, with a vibration. If a vibration goes out there and other people receive that vibration, and then that vibration is used to change the perception of other individuals' awarenesses and their minds, then it can also break things. We can vibrate things, and we can change our function, and we can change the way people perceive, and it's been doing that. See, they didn't want me to go any further than the things that I'd already done, because it's had an incredible impact. And also everybody else's efforts have had an incredible impact. Everybody speaking out about the things that they've been witness to, about the nature of the events that have taken place, and whether they were just or unjust. It's all affecting the state of the situation that exists around us, whether the state is natural or artificial. It's clearly affecting it, because it's rattling cages. It's making them have to expedite their process. They're also using AI again more publicly, which can allow you to only consider so much that's been done in the private, to contemplate how the events of the government need to carry out and sequence in order for there not to be a revolt, but there to be an efficient takeover of our freedoms and our liberties, and to disarm us and to move people in a position to either allow for fair competition against the Chinese government, or to allow for a swift and convenient disarming of Americans, or to stand in opposition to any type of other regime changes that may be attempted here. You think, oh, well, they're spending us into poverty. People don't understand the nature of wealth at this point. See, we print money, so we can print money into perpetuity until there's a technology or something along those lines to support it. Many people aren't intelligent enough to conceive, and I'm not doubting or knocking anybody. A lot of people, not talking about you, a lot of people in the public sector aren't intelligent enough to perceive this situation as it is. And they think, oh, we're just going to spend ourselves into complete poverty. Yeah, we can do that. We can do that, dissolve the government. That could be the white hat's agenda. Obama could be a white hat. See, there's so many triple agents that confuses people. I'm not confused. The problem is that people have a difficult time with perceiving the flow of information and the flow like the flow of reasoning and logic and discernment in a way that is cross-referencing to all the other things that are taking place simultaneously and have taken place. See, you can't just remember what's happened in the last 6 months or 6 years. You have to remember what's happened, what has always happened, what's been happening, why it's been happening, who's been the players, how it's been allowed to occur, why the public hasn't done something about it, why there isn't complete chaos and disorder in the streets, why society hasn't collapsed, why people are allowed to be distracted and subdued by the things that they're allowed to be distracted and subdued by, whether it's the pursuit of money, entertainment, power, influence, fame. I think I covered the gauntlet almost, right? It's people are change, whether for good or bad. It's all things that are necessary to contemplate when considering the state of the reality we're in. And if it is a simulation, if we live in a simulation, it very well could be because we messed everything up. We destroyed everything, or we, on the precipice of our destruction, the system had to refresh, or it had to suspend function, like operations. It had to suspend its system, because we were about to screw everything up, or we did screw everything up, and because we screwed everything up, we all got preserved in ancestral simulation, an ancestral simulation, and we're all playing out our ancestral programming in perpetuity. But that's scary, because it's right in the Bible of some of the things that they would wish for, like that the deceiver would wish us to believe that we weren't even real, or that he wasn't real. So we have to consider all these things. We can't be allowed to consider, it's just all technology. It's just all about AI. It's just all about God. It's all just about us. We have to be aware of all the things that have taken place. This is only covering starting to cover two of the factors that I wanted to talk about in this multi-part program. So I really hope that you'll take the time to hear this. Either you'll become much more intelligent and become much more aware of the things that are going on and the way that you perceive reality and how all this can be used for and against you, or you will find it not to be what you're interested in, because you'd much rather eat the steak and stay where you are now, currently in the state of awareness that you're in. So I say that with even a computer simulation, there's 4 parts of it. Typically, there's like the processing, the interface, the power in, and the monitor. That might be it, right? The interface is not the monitor; it's the keyboard. And the monitor can become the interface because of the new technology. They're going to try to, change more and more and more. On output too. There's also output, like the internet output. So there's 4 or 5 components of a computer. And I think our reality covers all those as well. Everything in our reality is significantly covered by those things. And so the probability of us being in a computer simulation is good. Like it's like quite high, but what would a real reality in fact then look like? It's something to consider, because are we in an ancestral simulation? Are we in something where we're just trying to have an experience? Was the very nature of God and existence and God trying to have a subjective experience, did it require a simulation, or did somebody after the fact learn that was the case and then build a simulation around us to control our energy and make us more subject to, excuse me, somebody interrupted me with a text. It was somebody I'm working with in politics right now, high level political individual, like highest level. It's cool stuff. So the 4 components there is that and I felt the message coming in too. The 4 components is that is that part of God's intended creation? And then did somebody on an advanced timeline see that so that they could enslave us, which is slavery, but with more steps, in order to either imprison our energy, which is what is often described with Lush and the Saturnalia project and the vortexes that are tornadoing, are drawing in energy through a channel from Earth to perhaps whatever plane that is, that where the gematria shaped vortex that is on Saturn is, in or on Saturn, or in that space or in that dimensional space. See, that's where it's crazy, is that we're very limited in our state of awareness. What we perceive and what's real are two very different things. We perceive even planets as sometimes planes, sometimes spheroids, right? They're kind of a mix, right? They're a giant elliptical plane, perhaps not elliptical, but potentially a giant elliptical or square plane, but it's rounded, very much like a dreidel toy. The pole star is the top of it, and it is, to me, a very decent model of what the Earth potentially could look like. Maybe a flat top with a rounded base and a convex or concave bottom, or maybe something similar but a little bit different, like a dreidel with a much fatter bottom. I mean, I think the further you go back, the bigger the bottoms of dreidels become. So, like, perhaps we live, all the continents that we are aware of, excluding Antarctica, are all on the top of the plane. And then Antarctica is the bottom of that plane. And it is equal or greater in size to the top plane. But as we get back to the point of the computer simulation, perhaps somebody on an advanced timeline saw that we were able to be controlled and put into this matrix simulation, and then our energy could be used against us for powering whatever technology they may wish to use. That could be a really, really great power source. I don't really know how much power we generate compared to something like volcanoes or the sun. It could be a complete waste of intelligence to even consider such a thing, because the sun could be much more powerful if, in fact, the sun still exists and wasn't destroyed. If the reality we are living in currently at this level is base or is not, whatever systems we are seeing that support it may or may not exist as well. But it's something that we have to consider. It's kind of like Tron, the movie Tron. If we were like a living organism inside of a much larger organism, it would be necessary for us to consider whether that organism was organic or synthetic. And therefore, our minds might ponder and be pushed and move towards considering the possibility that what we live in is in fact a simulation, a computer program, or a much larger organism, and we support either or. I can't help but believe that we live on an organism almost no matter what, and it brings me back to my concept of dimensions. When we see organisms in space, are we seeing atoms? Like when we see a planet or a planetoid or a spheroid or a plane and what we allege to be space, but I prefer to call it the cosmological void, in the great cosmology, beyond our plane. Are we seeing another living organism, or are we seeing just another atom of a much greater organism? And are we seeing the sun as the center of that atom, proton, neutron, of a much, much greater organism that we are failing to grasp and understand? And is our most advanced abilities in imaging of space there was the Hubble telescope, but now there's the James Webb telescope. Is that just our ability to basically see the interior wall? That's why it's all black, is because we're on the inside of a giant interior, like, living organism. And that's why we see black, is because we can't see outside of its skin, because it's impossible, and that's the wall and limitation of space. I mean, if you guys are listening to this, I told you you would become smarter. In fact, you are at this time, because there's no way that you heard that and didn't pick that up, if you know what I mean. What's up, Baltazar? I hope you're enjoying the presentation. I hope you'll stay around and continue to hear us. So if we're living inside of a giant void, when we look in space with the most advanced, space satellite and utilized for imaging, like the James Webb telescope, are we actually just seeing the interior wall of a much larger organism, and all the other galaxies and all the other planetary bodies? Are all these things just supporting cellular atoms and cellular networks of this giant organism that we live inside of? And if it's not that, is it in fact perhaps a computer system much like Tron? And were we forced in here, and is our purpose to simply escape out of it at some point, to figure out a way to change the computer system so that we are able to escape out of this, like in Tron? Like, is there a way, because they went in, could we escape out of here through the energy field, like the power supply? Can we get out through the power supply or because there's a positive and a negative power supply, correct? And power, for that reason, right? Is there a way that we could transition and get through the power supply to leave? And is that what they're kind of referring to when they reference the aurora borealis and how it kind of looks like a broken power system, wilding out of control? Now we are told that it is the effects of the sun glaring against the magnetar or the magnosphere of the planet that we live on, or the spheroid or the planetoid we live on, and that the blue and green lights are simply the auroras created by the massive amounts of energy blasting off of the field that protects the planet from these energy systems that we would be otherwise being burnt to a crisp by. Yeah, that's very reasonable and very logical, but it doesn't mean that that's a conclusive answer. Now, also in Antarctica, it has been alleged by a number of physicists and other NASA engineers and astronauts and people of that nature that something was awakened, and what it was awakened or unleashed was pure evil. But it's also been stated that there was a massive, circular cave that lied directly on the surface of the planet. So it was, if you were away from the planet looking down, you would see a giant gaping hole in the planet. Is that natural? Is that just a myth that somebody has perpetrated, and now other physicists and engineers and people of that level of pedigree are repeating? Because it was stated by one of these physicists, engineers, Dr. Richard Allen Miller to be precise, because he said this publicly, that at the time of his exploration there, they did not then possess the technology to go down into these chasms because of the changes in barometric pressure. Dead air would cause the propellers of helicopters to eat its own air exhaust, and it would immediately collapse. And that type of a climb would be near impossible. So, is that true, or is that just the allotted drip feed that we're being permitted to have access to at this time to keep us circling our heads and chasing our tails infinitely? So, but I kind of believe that it's the first half, in that through the advances of technology like drones and other systems, zero-point energy systems and fields and other technology that's still to be released publicly, that we are able to do that. We're able to now go down in these massive chasms, in these massive chambers, and we're able to explore in there and see the technology of ancient civilizations of previous epochs. However, that would allow me to segue into the concept that if there was somewhere on the planet where you would want to have a computer capable of the most advanced computations ever theorized, if you would want to have computers that are capable of collecting all of the entirety of human data, basically collecting the data from all the data collecting systems that the NSA and the NSI and all the other national institutes for surveillance have been gathering and sending it to one place where there was an infinite amount of cold energy to keep these computing systems cold and at high peak level functionality, it would be in Antarctica. And us currently realizing this in this era of civilization, is that how we're making the great leaps and advancements in technology that we are? Because we found advanced computers in Antarctica that we've awakened, and because we've awakened these systems, because we've allowed for these systems to be activated, is that the thing that our great NASA astronaut was saying we had awoken, that was pure evil? And is that now why shortly after, in the following years, there's been such a rapid uptick in advanced intelligence technology systems? And is that why Jade Helm was implemented when it was? Because it was the launching of the public domain like human awareness Wi-Fi grid. Like, we have smart dust inside of our brains that has been integrated to our neural network systems and our neural functionality systems, where it's created a neural net, and it's learned to interact with our brain, and it's learned to read our thoughts and then put them onto our cell phone devices, and then transfer this data back and forth, and it allows them to maintain a level of, a minority report type awarenesses in our lives, and awarenesses of threats, and how to utilize and manipulate people, and how to change their levels of thought processes, and how to Manchurian candidate people in real time, and how to program them and augment their reality by bypassing optical nerves and other parts of the brain. And they don't want me saying this, and I'm sorry, and it gets me a little anxious. That's why I kind of rock a little bit, because this stuff is really intelligent knowledge, because it is the induction of a new war. It's a new silent warfare against people, for the masses, and they're using these digital technologies in quantum sciences and even beyond. There is a science beyond quantum science, and it's a mixture of alchemy and vibration, and they don't want it, again, discussed publicly, because they don't want us aware of what they're capable of doing, even with these simple little cellular prison systems that we all carry in our hands and pockets and scroll doomingly on constantly. See, I am so grateful for you to take the time and the moment to hear what I'm saying, because it's not like this just comes from nowhere. I don't need a script. You want to see what's on my paper? It says, clearly I wanted to form a movement, and it's not easy to form a movement. God is the movement, so it is hard to let go sometimes. And I wanted God to answer on my time, and couldn't understand why people were not standing up. But I came to accept peace, heal, and mature in my relationship with God. And I wrote the list of 10 things that I wanted to talk about. And those 10 things are LiamXmaiL, my mom in the spirit, which I didn't cover my mom in the spirit because I don't think I'm ready to. 2, Mr. X. 3, the simulation for computer matrix. The simulation computer matrix and God. 4, war. 5, God coming. 6, aliens. 7, the New World Order. 8, time. 9, reality. And 10, us are the, us. And so we're kind of at war. And the war is quick and concise. Did it happen already? Did we mess it up? Did we cook us all? Did the aliens come and freeze us and reanimate us in a simulation for the rest of the galactic public's enjoyment? Are we cooked, son? Is that why everything seems to be decaying now? Because we messed up? But it's not decaying everywhere else in the world. It's just decaying here. Do we have bad programming? Is there a virus in America? Is that what's going on? If it's not fake and it's real, are we going to war with Russia and China and the rest of the world because of Israel? Are we going to let our sons and daughters, our children, the future generations of life, and all the people who shall live and thrive in the United States succumb to galactic planetary holocaust because of our willingness to believe in the nonsense that has been orchestrated, and we've been lied, and the propaganda and the Joseph Goebbels and the media, Zionist owned media outfits of the world? Are we going to allow us to be, moved and directed this way? We can't even have war on this planet anymore. There's people who are dying because what? They're tribal? No, because there's somebody who's 5,800 years in their timeline, and then there's somebody who's like 2,000 years in their timeline. Beautiful people, artists, engineers, science, because they have beautiful earthbound brains and minds, and they have good hearts, and they create the most beautiful pures. Do you not realize that we're living in a Palestinian time when the king is coming to kill all the children? Do you not realize that they fear somebody else rising up? Do you not realize the true nature of the situation that we find ourselves in? Be calm and take a breath, but it is not I, but they, correct? Let's not get too far into things, right? Let's just keep it simple. Do you not understand that it is you who stands to make a difference? I just said that, I got mad because God didn't, not mad, but I got frustrated because it wasn't happening, because it was suffering. We live in a state of suffering. If one suffers, we all suffer. I said we shouldn't have war, but there are people dying because of being, they should all be removed from there, because the people causing this have no other intention but death and destruction. And it's not because they are threatened. They were not threatened. They were not terrorized. They were not attacked. It's been a mutual thing of mutually assured and beneficial destruction, but one being a much greater force than the other. And the world is watching, and they the weak and defenseless one are wondering if the world will withstand. But the only answer I can give is to flee, because right now we live in a state where everybody is establishing their new kingdoms, and that's right there with the level of war. We're on talking point number 4. We're on the level of war. The war is what is happening because these empires, these kingdoms never fell, like they never were fallen. The Roman Empire became the Catholic Church, and and Rome became, you know, just kind of like another proxy for one of the, you know, power, like the religious power vectors, but it's also Rome. Okay, so the Catholic Vatican became a power vector for the world, the trifecta of power, of political power and military power of the United States, the economic power of like London, because of the world exchange there that occurs, and then the religious power of the Vatican City. That's the holy trifecta of physicality in our domain. But the Vatican is Rome. And with that, they are also wearing the same hats as the silly people who live down there, who are being a brute and beating up on that poor defenseless little one. So, because these things have been said as they are, we're living in the same time. We're living in the exact same time. People wonder, well, what is God? We're living in the time. We're living in the time. I don't want to be a martyr or a religious figure or like I don't want to be that person. I'm not him, right? Nobody ever wants to be that person, right? So we have to consider that these things are happening in our time, and it's a replaying of the same situations that are, but in fact, if those things are all fake and phony, which is quite possible and might be the case, then we have to realize and consider that what else might be happening is that they just want us to believe that's the case, and they just want to reestablish their empires because that's the way that it's all going to be maintained in perpetuity. They all need to establish their empires. They all need to make it so that their empires can exist and exist and exist and exist and exist. And hold on. I'm going to be joining a show soon, and so we're going to stop with half of these being done, and then we're going to go live again, and I hope you guys watch it, and then we will cover the other half in a little bit when the rest is done, okay? Because I really hope you guys see this, because I think you need to see it. I think it's really good and important, and I think it will make you smarter, and it will help your life and those around you, and you'll be able to make different choices and have different outcomes than what you would typically expect. And I'm back, bitches. I'm back. And what does that mean? That means that I don't have time to not be here doing what needs to be done for us all. And I believe it's what we can do and what we're meant to do, and I can do this peacefully without causing conflict or chaos or harm or any other type of stress to anyone. Hope you see this, Manson, you crazy mother. I've always been building my mind this way. I just hope you get to see it once. So next thing is, what's up, Shane? So next thing is as I was saying, the war. Our governments, Russia, Tatari, or no, Russia, let's just say Russia, that entire Khazarian area that once was, it wants its empire, it wants its walls. China wants its empire, it wants its walls. Israel wants its empire, it wants its walls. Israel knows what's going on. They know why they're reproducing. A lot of the world is being misled. They're being fed by chemtrails and by toxic food, and it messes up with our fertility and our brain and our energy levels and our consciousness systems, and everything's being affected heavily. So we are engaged in this incredible war, but we don't understand the degrees and the levels of warfare that are taking place. We have to understand that these people want their kingdom. From the river to the sea, Palestine, what about that place? Yes, it's supposed to be, but it's not going to be, because these people have the power and authority and the military might, and even if the whole world cries out, you don't understand that this has already happened. People have already cried out about things before in the past. People have already, for thousands of years, beyond thousands of years, for planetary generations, we've, like, beyond the scope of our planet, they don't have human rights on other planetoid bodies, on other planes of consciousness. And yeah, people are going to be like, yeah, yes we do. No, we don't. We don't have the consciousness, and we don't have the freedoms and rights that you would think that we would have on other planets that we have here. Because why do you think they're trying to be stripped from us? Like, seriously, consider this for a possibility, okay? If there's another planet, we'll call it Mars. And they've had civilizations, and even though if you look up it with a telescope, you don't see anything. Trust me, you can't. You're not allowed to. Well, how not? I see meteors, and I see Mars, and I see a surface. I see Google Mars. I see the Mars rover footage. They don't want us to understand anything. They can fake a lot, even with satellite imagery. They can, even with your telescope. How would they fake your telescope imagery? You wouldn't really want to know. It's a plasma-filled system, and they can project anything in that vast, dense plasma field they want to, okay? Any type of projection, they can put in that plasma field above us, and then you see what your telescope wants to see. Shoot something at it and see if it hits it, right? And this is all coming. It's all coming into our state of knowledge. But what we do know is there's war taking places, countries are getting pissed, shit's happening, okay? I live right along the airfield of a strike line, and basically these places want their war. They want their country, they want their empire, and they want to be sovereign and away from the rest of the world, because the AI will teach them how to fight, will teach them how to build, will teach them how to advance, how to become intelligent, and just like people are intelligent, like the people, like you wouldn't believe how this really works, but the people out there who are very, very intelligent, they understand how all this functions and how all this works, and that's why they're busy in the fields of technology and in the fields of politics and media and entertainment. They know how it all really, really works. They have it down to a perfect science. So they are keeping us distracted and not even potentially aware of the levels of type of situation, like type of technologies that are being utilized and things that are being researched and advances that are being made, because we care about fucking NASCAR. We care about stupid ass, pointless ass entertainment systems. Like, we are completely like video gamed out. Video games are going to not be entertaining soon. Cell phones are not going to be entertaining soon. I'm telling you, we're going to have a renaissance of awareness and a renaissance of self-awakening. I'm ahead of the fucking curve on all this shit. Always. Alright? I am always the fucking head of the curve on this. It's one thing I can fucking tell you. And how are you going to say, well, how could you possibly think we're going to get burnt out on video games and cell phones? Because not only is it going to happen, it's going to happen out of some kind of natural, weird-ass occurrence. It's going to happen. So it's going to happen, okay? So it's going to take place. We're going to get burnt out. Video games, cell phones, TV, movies, entertainment, where it's going to happen. It's natural for life to go through these cycles of high levels of entertainment and then high levels of physical experience. It's high levels of entertainment and then higher levels of physical experience in order to create new eras of entertainment. We can't create any more new entertainment, right? Everything's being repeated. It's a rerun of a rerun of a remake of a remake. Come on, it's in our DNA. It's in our face, but we fail to see it because of the smoke between us and the mirror, and the realities that are visible in the mirror if the smoke was only to be vanquished. So, those things being made aware, us having this knowledge come into us, what do we do with the war and with what's happening with Palestine? We help them flee. We could do no greater thing than help them flee. If they say they don't want to flee, then they say then you are welcoming your own genocide. Because Israel wants nothing but them gone. Okay? You see how the rest of the world is having a massive migrant influx? Israel wants nothing but them gone. Why do you think there's people who are migrating and there's this influx and there's something building up? Okay, all these new people getting their cell phones, that's because they've never had cell phones before and they need cell phone users. They need new data to mine and process. People don't understand the reality of the nature of the system that we live in at all. So the war is vast and gross and all-encompassing. And we don't need to study the war no more, because everything is war. Everything is war. It's all war. We are a planetary body of warring spirits, but we don't war for the right reason. If we could just align ourselves to the right things, and not cause harm for those that cause any harm to anyone, and to bring peace upon those who are innocent, and to make those who would cause harm upon those who are innocent powerless. That's what we must pursue. And there are avenues and levels and channels and ways to do this, and that's what we must pursue, but with a fierceness that has not been seen in a great long time. I truly want to go further, so I will share the beginning of point 5, and what is it is that God is coming, but God might not be the God you perceive God to be. There is a great and almighty powerful God who is Alpha and Omega and all the creator of all prefabricated structure in this universe. The creator of all prefabricated structure in this universe. But there is also God within us, God with us, God is us, God us, God us, God us where we are, and God us where we need to go. So let's go and go with God. Because God is what is coming. God is what is now and what we have to believe. And what I say to those who will not listen and would stand on the ground that has been declared their own by others that do so unjustly and unrighteously, their condemnation will come, and they will see themselves harmed by the fires that the great Creator has brought to be and prepared for them. But it is not us who shall do so, but the others that shall. And it is because they have declared themselves an equal pure to this state, and they will either stand in defiance and truth or not. And where shall I flee to? Wherever thou shalt desire to flee is wherever thou shalt flee to. Where your heart tells you to go is where you need to go. And if it's to America, then let it be America. And if it's to somewhere else, something greater or something beyond, if it's something like where there's nobody who can tell you how to live and or how to die, it might be coming to being that time soon. Because we have to wake up and we have to be ready. Or the generations that shall precede you shall not exist. Why should I say such a thing? Because there is things in the works that are clear and have already been stated. And it is us who sleep. You sleep, you sleep, you sleep. Wake up now. Wake up now. It is us who sleep and sleep and sleep and sleep. So you must wake. You must wake, for the time has come that these things shall be carried out, and that which will be lost will be life that you hold dearly. Awake from these things and become prepared. Awake from them. Awake from them and realize that you have to move now. Why now move? Because you're not safe. Put your houses in order. Straighten your affairs. Don't sell all your belongings. Look at your life again and see how you want it to be preserved and the legacy you wish to be remembered. Look to your life and see how you think your family lives in a world like the one that's being made. Because see, it's happening and we can stop it. But maybe we're not supposed to. And maybe that's all we're supposed to do. And we're not ready to make that choice yet. And that's okay. Because it's a scary and terrifying reality. It's a very scary and terrifying reality to find ourselves in this place and to hope and to think that we can actually do something about it, but then to realize that we actually can't, because to do something about it would cost us our freedom or our life. And there's no condemnation towards us because it is not our fight but His. But when the time comes that you know that you must fight, it will be the time when you know your children are being harmed or threatened. Sometimes, for some people, that time has already come. And there are levels to fight without causing chaos or bloodshed or violence. There are ways to do this properly. Until there are not. But that is not a threat. It is a fact. But only in the spirit that people resort to desperate measures in desperate times. And it doesn't mean that they won't face full legal accountability, because they want us to self-censor and they want us to be aware of the things that we say and how the things we say can be used as threats and used against us. I sent out a bunch of invites, and I was just covering a lot about God. And there's one more avenue of God I should cover, and that's the natural order of God before the imposed colonial, monarchy-driven concept of what God is. The moon God, the sun God, the one that existed before those two, because those two are still part of the matriarchal system that has been superimposed upon the natural gods that have existed in nature. Okay? It was a great light in the sky. They didn't call it no sun. It was a guider and somebody who protected and made the tides, affected the tides throughout the seasons. That's what the moon did. It was somebody who it was a partner. It was somebody who you knew how they behaved and they knew how you behaved. It wasn't something that you worship, but only gave worship to. You gave praise and admiration and love, and you thought of it as a creative force, and you didn't give it a deity, but instead a real place in your life where you found it to have meaning, and it served its meaning. Hey, QNYC, are you still here? Can you drop something like a comment to let me know you're here? Because it says that nobody's watching, and I have no problem with that, but I'm curious if people are jumping in and dropping out, or if it's just refusing to show me anybody's watching because it's on that same bullshit it's always been on with me. Either way is cool. Thank you so much for joining. So, the earth and the moon and the sun and the stars all coexisted with us, and they still do, but we've lost that connection because we've been moved into homes, and we've been moved into wallets and into cars and into contracts and into companies, all controlling systems, right? Systems of control, C. Okay? They like that letter C. They're so obvious in their bullshit, people, but they're efficient, and we have to be aware of that. We have to be aware that they're efficient in their systems of control. They have statutes and codes of commerce. It's all control, okay? They've taken us captive by these things, but our attention and our physicalities, and they've disconnected us from the earth and from natural relationships of maintaining and stewarding for nature. The natives used to burn the roads, and they used to burn the trails so that they would burn back old brush, and they would protect the forest from fires that would be otherwise uncontrollable, because they would learn, and they would pass that knowledge down to future generations because their lives were meaningful, and they used each moment they had, and they didn't send their children off to schools to be indoctrinated and programmed, and taken the relationship that they had with their children, stripped away and made hard and cold, because somebody else is there every day and day in and day out for them, and then they lose that person every year, so they're cold and colder and colder. Let us come back to what matters, to what God gave us and His teachings, but not the simple bullshit of the Bible. I'm not saying that it's just bullshit. I'm saying the bullshit in the Bible is not all we must understand and be aware of. We have to come back to our natural way of things, get away from the cell phones and back to ourselves, back to each other, back to community and fellowship, and to having this peace amongst one another. It's something we truly must strive to nurture and create for each other. I believe that it is the way forward. I believe it is the way that our children see the value in what we have, and we don't have to find it again through needless bloodshed for fake ideologies and political concepts. We have to fight hard and make ourselves heard, and we have to do everything in our power to be that voice of discernment for our children, because our voices of discernment have left us, have passed on into the other side, and it is now our time and our turn to step up and stand on top of our truths and not to be bullied even by our partners or anybody else. It's time to be us and alive and thriving, and teaching them what it means to thrive, and not wasting our time on boxes and bullshit and fake entertainment and all the other systems of control that they use to manipulate us, because we are coming. We are standing up and stepping forward and moving towards these things in the right way. And it is our time now to be the teachers and to be the stewards and to pass on all we've gained and all we've worked hard to obtain and discern and figure out. Because there are those out there who do that every day. Why are they winning all the time, always? Because that's what they are determined to do. That's what they are focused on. That's what they think is necessary. That's what they think is the most important thing in the world, is to be the best, because that's what's going to help them have a future, a new generation of their own life to thrive on this planet. There is no way that you are not it sucks because our awarenesses are separated, but I am different. I know I can feel my dad's awareness, because I know what it felt like when my mom's awareness was gone. And it's not completely out of existence, but she passed away a year ago, 2 days from now. And it's different now. And I feel my father, and I feel his heart ache, and I feel his love, and I feel his desire to be a better man. and I feel my own desire, and I feel my son's desire, and I feel all the people around me. And that's what we used to feel before we were disconnected by these fake connections. That's what we used to feel, and that's what we used to know. And there's plants that can so heighten this so fast that it would terrify you that we can exist in that plane of existence. It would absolutely terrify you that we can exist in these planes of existence. And to know these things is beautiful. To know these things should bring you peace. To know these things should help you have understanding. You can take plants that can put you in your best friend's dreams, and then you enter that world with full lucidity, and you don't know what you can do when you're lucid in that realm. You can do things beyond your wildest imagination. And when you have a level of awareness and attention and RAM that's able to back up the processing power necessary to make this brain do what it can do, well, then there you go. You can start doing things that you didn't even know were possible. The things that have been leaked by the CIA are so true, but we don't see it and we don't do it anymore because we let our brains exist in this constant state of decay, in this constant state of nutritional deficiency. And that's where they want us. That's where they want us. That's where they want us. We have to work hard to thrive. We have to get it back. We have to take it back. We have to fight really hard to bring our lives back to the natural state that it was in, because that's when we'll start to understand the full limitations of the matrix, or the digital or quantum interface or overlap that's been imposed upon us. And that's how we will begin to fight it and see our way out. There's vampiric methods of taking energy from other people. There's ways of being angry and brutal and violent and aggressive, and that's another form of getting energy. There's eating that good raw vegan food, eating living organisms or once living organisms that were brought up and sustained on proper nutritional sources. But right now, we're coming into a period where they want us to be completely mind controllable and completely able to be manipulated with food, and to take us to a lower vibrational state of consciousness so that they can keep our brain waves from entering higher levels and states that can be used to challenge their powers and authorities. This is where I'm going to end this for right now, but I might be right back soon. This is going to be uploaded to a number of places, and I thank you for your time and your attention. And I wish that certainly you guys would be here longer to enjoy it more. But in the future, perhaps you will be. I thank you again for your time. You're welcome from mine. And this is dedicated to all the truthers who came before us, who have lost their lives, who have given their lives, who have had their lives given, whose lives have been utilized, because this is warfare. There's no way it isn't. LiamXmaiL, signing off.